Let's talk fat loss and perimenopause. If you're a woman over the age of 40, you may be experiencing one or even all of the following symptoms. Increased fat, especially around the midsection, even though you haven't changed anything with your nutrition or your training. The inability to stick with a diet more than 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Or maybe you work out 4, 5, 6 days a week, but you're not losing any body fat and you're not getting the toned look that you want. If this is you, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, and I totally understand how frustrating that it can be. And the truth is that it is more challenging whenever we're older, whenever we are in perimenopause, menopause. It is more challenging to lose weight and keep it off. There is a lot of factors which we will be talking about in today's episode, but the good news is that there is some things that you can do, and I'm going to be bringing some common mistakes that women make in perimenopause when it comes to fat loss that is going to be game changing for you. My name is Courtney Witten, and I'm the host of the Lean Lifestyle Podcast, where we talk about all the things about losing fat, building muscle, and getting lean in your 40s and beyond. So I'm so excited for you to be here today, and we are going to go ahead and dive into today's episode, all about what to do when you're struggling with fat loss and perimenopause. So again, it is more challenging during this time because of things such as hormones. Our hormones are impacted during this time, and this can greatly impact our hunger hormones. Our hunger hormones like leptin and ghrelin really do help us with filling our fullness cues and also keeping things like cravings under control. So during perimenopause and menopause, a lot of times our hormones can get a little wonky, and this can make it hard to eat in a calorie deficit. Other issues with perimenopause that make it hard to lose body fat is our sleep. During perimenopause, it's very common to experience disruptions in sleep. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep, or what you are getting, you're just not getting good quality sleep. And sleep disruptions are very common. And if we're not getting good sleep, then we're probably not recovering well from our workouts. And it can also impact our hunger hormones as well. This is why when you're sleep deprived, if you're feeling extra snacky, that is exactly why. And then on top of that, it's very, very normal and common to slow down. So part of the issue could be that you are moving less than you used to. So therefore, you are not burning as many calories. So these are some things that can really impact our body composition as we move into perimenopause. So today we're going to be going through some common mistakes that I see women making and what you can do to get back on track, so that way you can reach your goal no matter what your age is. All right, ladies, so we're going to go ahead and dive in. So number one is your mindset. Okay, so I see this all the time. I know it sounds really woo-woo, but I'm telling you, ladies, how you talk to yourself is so important if you want to lose weight and keep it off for good, because our thoughts turn into our feelings, and our feelings are going to dictate our actions that we take. This is really important to understand. So I was just talking about this on Instagram the other day in my stories. I showed two different perspectives. So perspective number one, it's been a week and I've only lost a pound. I can't believe this. I've worked so hard and nothing seems to work. I don't see the use in keeping this up. I may as well quit. Or perspective number two, it's been a week and I'm down a pound. And even though it's just a pound, I'm so excited because I feel like I'm headed in the right direction. Okay, who do you think is going to have better weight loss success? Perspective number one or perspective number two? That's right, perspective number two. So it's all about your own belief in yourself, because here's the thing. If you do not believe in yourself, if you don't think that you can achieve what you set out to do, then your actions are not going to align with what you need to do in order to reach your goal. This is so important, because if we do not have that alignment, it's going to make it really, really difficult. So I know this can be really frustrating, because it's one of those things, it's not really easy to listen to your thoughts because we have so many thoughts in a day. And more than likely, this is probably a narrative that's running in the background. So I tell my ladies inside my membership for Women Lean Physique to really be mindful and just slow down and just listen to what you are telling yourself in the background. By doing this, you're going to be able to dismantle these beliefs and come up with a new story that you can say instead that's going to better serve you. So I know it's not as easy as it sounds, and I do understand that this sounds like bullshit, but I'm telling you right now, this is very much a missing piece in a lot of women that struggle with fat loss. We've got to change the narrative, because if you have a negative narrative, you're just not going to take the right actions. And it is going to be required that you take certain actions and be consistent with them in order to lose body fat. So that is number one, shifting your mindset to a winning attitude, because that's really what it's going to take, because losing weight and keeping it off, that is a long game. And we have to have a winning attitude. We have to have the right mindset that's going to align with the right actions. So that way we can lose the weight and keep it off for good. All right, ladies, number two is you are not practicing mindfulness and moderation. All right, so this is something I've really been diving deep into. If you follow me on Instagram at cfitness.training, I've been talking a lot about this. So moderation, just real quick, moderation is all about finding that middle between black and white. So finding that middle between going on the diet and being off the rails. It is the middle between eating diet food, so eating like grilled chicken breast and steamed broccoli, or going off the rails and overeating highly palatable foods such as ice cream or fast food meals. Moderation is the idea of finding that middle ground in between the two extremes. And the reason why a lot of times women struggle with fat loss is because they have this yo-yo effect with their behaviors and their mindset. So, the whole idea of going on a diet on Monday, being super restrictive, only to find yourself completely off track by the weekend. So moderation is all about finding that middle ground, and instead of trying to be perfect or getting into this fuck it mode, we need to find that middle ground, so that way we can be consistent and continue to show up consistently so we can see the results that we want to see. Mindfulness is very similar, but mindfulness is more around learning skills such as knowing the difference between physical hunger. So if you're actually hungry, like having a growling stomach, maybe it's been several hours since you've eaten, to the difference between that and emotional hunger, which is all about cravings. This emotional type hunger is generally going to come on really fast, and you'll know if it's emotional hunger if it is something specific. So maybe you're craving something, usually like something like a fast food meal, something that's like high in starch and sugar, right? That's highly palatable type food. That is more like an emotional type hunger. In addition, other mindful practices is eating to 80% full, checking in with hunger and cravings throughout the day, and also things like your energy level. These biofeedback markers are so important to understand, because a lot of times as women, we have been conditioned to do things like follow a diet, eating at certain times of the day, following a meal plan where, you're not really being mindful. You're really just going off what your coach says or what the meal plan says. And unfortunately, this really makes us dumb. Dieting actually makes us really dumb. And a lot of the clients that I work with are ladies in their 40s and 50s, and they have no idea what the difference between physical hunger and cravings is. And they also don't even really know like what actual hunger is, because a lot of times when I coach clients, they don't really know the difference between, like, there is a gray in between like being super starving and feeling super stuffed. So this is very much a skill that is very underrated. Again, it's another woo-woo thing, just like the mindset. But I'm telling you all right now, if you do not master mindfulness and moderation, these are skills that really are going to help you with long-term weight loss. And also to stay adherent with it. So this is so important, because a lot of women just focus on the diet, they focus on the meal plan, but they're not practicing anything like moderation or mindfulness. So that is number two. This can be a very much a powerful tool that can help you achieve that long-term weight maintenance. And this is also something that I teach inside of Lean Physique. So that's something I'm really excited about. We've been talking about inside our private group, inside the membership, but just really empowering them with tools that they can use in order to improve their mindfulness and moderation. And again, this is just like any other tool, like responding to cravings, macro counting, all of those things. These are skills that most of us are not like really intuitive about. So it's really going to take learning the skill, but not only that, like not only like reading about it and learning about it, but actually implementing this. So I have my clients do things like set a timer every 3 hours and check in with their hunger signals. So instead of like, setting an alarm every 3 hours to eat or whatever, this is really more along the lines of like getting to know your hunger and getting to know like what 80% full is. This is so key because we really need to be careful about overeating, because overeating is going to result in unwanted fat gain. So this is very much an underrated tool that I wish more people would get on board with, but it is something that I teach inside Lean Physique, my membership for women. All right, ladies. So number 3, we are just going to move along here, is you are not in a calorie deficit. All right. So this is something I did ruffle some feathers not too long ago on Instagram over some of the posts and reels that I've been posting lately. The reason why I talk about this all the time is not to make anyone mad, is not, to be like, I'm right. That's not what this is. The thing is that we have so much science that tells us that weight loss is going to come down to a calorie deficit. We have tons of studies on this, and this has been studied for a very long time. And yes, all of the data is pointing that it is going to be required to eat in a calorie deficit. So eating less energy than your body needs, or less calories than your body needs. And I want you all to think of it in this context. So here's a few examples. So bodybuilders, the leanest people in the world, they get stage lean by counting their calories. They do calorie deficits, and that's exactly how they get lean within 4, 5, 6 months, is by counting macros and counting calories. Also, look at the people that that's on weight loss drugs such as Ozempic or Wegovy. These people are losing weight because they are not eating. So basically what these weight loss drugs are doing, they are regulating hunger hormones. So meaning their hunger is decreasing, and it makes it easier for them to eat in a calorie deficit. So I want you all to kind of think of it in that context. Weight loss is just it's not like a magical thing. It's one of those things like we have to have the correct energy balance. We have to have the right amount of calories coming in. We also have to have the right amount of calories going out. So I do hate to tell you this because I know this is probably not what you want to hear. I am sorry, but this really is the truth. And I do want to say this because there is so much bullshit out there right now. I see so much stuff on Instagram that's just completely false. Like weight loss has nothing to do with calories. Weight loss has everything to do with calories. Now, there is things that can impact your ability to eat in a calorie deficit. And perimenopause is one of those because, again, like we were talking about earlier, wonky hormones. Hormones start to shift. Our progesterone starts to tank. Testosterone starts to tank. Our hunger hormones, such as leptin and ghrelin, might get out of whack. And if those things are out of whack, then yeah, we are more than likely going to experience a little more hunger, more cravings, and this makes it more difficult to eat in a calorie deficit. So it's not that just because you're in perimenopause that weight loss is going to be not happening for you. It just means that you have all of these factors that make it more difficult to eat in a calorie deficit. So that's what I want to say about that. On this subject though, so again, we know that it's going to take a calorie deficit to lose fat. If you think you are in a calorie deficit, but you're not losing fat, you're not in a calorie deficit. So we need to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So one, are you tracking your calories? If not, then let's start doing that and see where our calories are falling. So that way we know. Because here's the thing, I hate to tell you this, but even if you eat healthy, even if you eat clean, that might not be enough to lose body fat. Because again, weight loss is going to be from a quantitative state. It's not from quality of diet, is quantity. So even though it does help, right, to eat clean foods, to eat highly nutritious foods that are rich in protein, healthy carbohydrates, and dietary fats, absolutely that can help, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose weight. So that's why it's so important, even if you eat a clean diet, that you're tracking your calories. That's very, very important. Now, if you are tracking your calories and you're still not losing fat, or you've come across a plateau, then we need to make sure that we are not missing things. So this is why a lot of women that come into my membership, they do have experience counting macros, but a lot of times when we start working together, I start to figure out the truth. Like, one of my clients wasn't measuring oil, and that's like, whoa, that could really be just even that can really make a big difference. Because if you're not measuring up to a couple hundred calories a day, absolutely that can make you stuck. Things like not measuring condiments. This is a big one. Those things like ranch dressing, that stuff does add up over time. And also doing things like just eyeballing portions. I'm a big proponent, like, hey, we don't need to be measuring forever, but most people are terrible eyeballing. So we really need to get real with ourselves. If we're tracking and we're not seeing results, it's not because tracking calories doesn't work, and it's not because the whole idea of calories is what makes you lose weight, because it is. Is probably just because you're off with your tracking somehow. So whether you're not weighing your food, or you're not tracking certain things, or maybe you're tracking during the week but not during the weekends, we need to get to the root of that, so that way we can figure that out. Now, on this subject, so we're still talking about you're not in a calorie deficit. One thing that I see a lot, and this is going to impact the ability to stay in a calorie deficit, and that's what it's going to take to lose weight, is really going to be being consistent with implementing a calorie deficit, eating less than your body burns. But one of the big mistakes I see in this area is spending way too long in a fat loss phase. And I know this can be really confusing, because I've heard, hey, Courtney, but what if I have a lot of weight to lose? Like, I have a significant amount of weight to lose. So even if you have a significant amount of weight to lose, even if you're close to your goal, but you can't seem to lose that last 10, 15 pounds, we need to stop dieting for months and months on end, okay? There's a few reasons for this. First of all, you're probably not going to be very adherent, okay? So you're probably not going to be able to stick to that calorie deficit. And this is really what I see a whole lot, because here's the thing. It takes actually a lot of brain power. It takes a lot of willpower in order to eat low calorie enough in order to lose weight. So if you are dieting too long, that's really, really draining. And there's going to come a time that you're probably going to get in effort mode. You're going to say, screw this. And then you're going to go to the other end, just like we were talking about with moderation. Depriving too much is always going to end not good. It's going to end in overindulgence. It's going to end in binging. Okay. And we don't want to do that, because once we're in that mode, then we're probably in a surplus, right? And this is how we gain weight. So it's really, really important to make sure that we are having set, defined end times for a fat loss phase. A good recommendation is 12, 16 weeks, okay? Unless you're a bodybuilder, you don't really need to do any longer than that. And if you're going to be stubborn about that, you need to at least have some diet breaks in there where you're eating at maintenance, okay? But I highly recommend just 12 to 16 fat loss phases. And that way you can have a little break from dieting, eat at maintenance for a while, and then you can go back into the fat loss phase. Because here's why people fail at fat loss phases, at dieting, is because they don't take it seriously. And the reason why they're not taking it seriously is because it drags on and on and on. And after a while, it just is going to be draining, okay? You're going to lose your willpower. You're going to probably end up overindulging. So it's so important to make sure that you have an end date on these diets, and that you have a plan for after the diet as well. Okay. And that's something I help ladies inside Lean Physique. It's like, no one talks about what to do after weight loss. And this is really, really important because we don't want to just lose the weight. We want to keep it off forever. So that's so important to make sure that you are not over dieting. I tell my ladies inside Lean Physique, because I give this all the time, because I push maintenance on them. Like, hey, let's just take a break from dieting and just focus on basic skills like mindfulness and moderation and getting our mindset right, tracking our food, all of these things. It's so much easier to practice these things when you're not cutting. And it's also going to benefit you when you do go back into a cut. You're going to have these tools a little bit more ingrained. And it's just going to be so much easier. And your fat loss is probably going to come off a lot easier as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And I also tell my ladies inside Lean Physique, if they're hesitant, if they're like, well, I don't want to maintain, I want to lose. Well, here's the thing. I would say maintaining is probably better than gaining, right? Wouldn't you say? So that's why it's so important. You're just going to be way more adherent. The second thing that you need to know is metabolic adaptation. So metabolic adaptation, we talk a lot about this on the podcast, but metabolic adaptation is when you diet for a long period of time and your metabolism starts to downregulate. So meaning it's going to burn less calories. So this is with everyday movement. It's also at rest as well, and with exercise. So long periods of time, metabolic rate starts to decrease. You're not burning as many calories. And then in addition, along with this, you're going to be moving less unconsciously. So you're going to be fidgeting less. And this can actually add up to hundreds of calories. So this will explain if you are eating a low calorie diet and you're not losing fat is because you're not in a calorie deficit. Because it's going to be really hard if you're only burning like 1,400 calories a day. It's going to be hard to eat less than that, right? Like it's hard to do that. So that's what I want to offer here is that's the other drawback to dieting for too long is that you might experience that metabolic adaptation, especially if it's been months, and you're going to be burning less calories, and it's just going to make it even harder to eat in a calorie deficit. So that's so important to know that we don't want to be dieting all the time, and we definitely need to have seasons with our body composition. All right, next we are talking about number 4, another mistake that I see women make when it comes to losing fat in perimenopause is cutting calories too much or doing too much cardio. Okay, so what I mean by this is a big mistake that I see is women cutting like 500 calories from their maintenance right off the bat. So say like, your maintenance is, you're eating at maintenance like 1,800 calories and then you cut it all the way down to like 13. Here's the problem with that. Okay. First, adherence again. There's adherence again. That's a lot. Like that's a whole meal. Like 500 calories is a decent sized meal that can be really satisfying. The other issue is metabolic adaptation. So kind of what we were just talking about. Your body gets used to that. You're going to have to cut calories more, and we don't want to do that, right? So that's not going to be fun. And not to mention, you could be losing muscle mass if you're cutting calories that much. So that is a huge mistake that I see women make. Sure, from like looking at it from a scientific standpoint, yeah, you cut calories more, you're going to lose more. Yes, that will happen. But again, we're humans. If we're not going to be able to stick to this, if it's going to make us binge later, we probably don't want to do that, right? So here's what we want to do. We want to gradually increase the calorie deficit. So I always have people just start with like a 10% calorie deficit. That's not going to be that much. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, that's about 200 calories. I mean, that's still tough, but that's doable, right? And then if you hit a plateau, maybe after a month or two, then you increase the calorie deficit. So you start off with 10%. That starts to slow down a little bit. All right, well, after a month or two, I'm going to bump it up to 15%. Same thing, okay? So my calories are a little bit lower. Do that until I hit a plateau. If I hit another plateau, I'm going to increase that calorie deficit to 20%. So that way, yeah, you might work up to like 20% of a calorie deficit from maintenance or from what you were eating, but at least that's going to be toward the end of the fat loss phase. You're not going to have to do that for long, right? So this is so important, and this is a huge mistake that I see. And if more people would do this, they would probably lose the weight and actually keep it off and stop this yo-yo madness. So on the same subject, so that mistake was cutting calories or doing too much cardio. I just put this on the same one. Same kind of idea. I see this all the time. Well, I'm just going to do a whole bunch of cardio. It's like, yeah, that's going to help. And again, from a scientific standpoint, it makes sense, right? Calories burned equals fat loss, sure. But is that going to be realistic? Is it going to be realistic for you to lift and do that much cardio? Is it going to be realistic for you to do 30 minutes to an hour of cardio 4 or 5 days a week? Probably not. And then again, same with the calories, your body will adapt to that. So we want to keep cardio low as possible and increase it as we get deeper into a fat loss phase, or once we see a plateau, that's when we want to increase it. So at the beginning of a diet, sure, cardio is a really good way to speed up your results. But I only recommend like 1, maybe 2 sessions a week. And maybe we keep it kind of short, right? Maybe we just do like a 15, 20-minute session. Well, once that stops working, or after like a month or so, then we can add on more cardio. We can add on another day. We could also add a little bit more intensity or more duration. Again, we don't want to adapt to that because we don't want to get to a point where we're doing like an hour of cardio every freaking day. Like, we don't have time for that shit. So the smart thing to do is keep your cardio as low as possible and gradually increase it. Okay. And or you could also just kind of go off of your results. So if you start to plateau, then maybe we need to either drop calories a little bit, or we can ramp up the cardio, or a little bit of both. Okay. So that is number 4, is cutting calories too much at once or doing too much cardio. Okay. There is a point of diminishing returns, and we want to avoid having to do cardio every day for an hour. That just sounds terrible. All right, ladies, thanks so much for being here. We have one more mistake that women make when trying to lose fat in perimenopause, and that is your body has adapted to a lower weight. Okay, this is something that I'll forget about. This is very much, people forget about it. So here's the thing. If you are on a weight loss journey, maybe you have some weight to lose. Maybe you've been doing great, but you hit a plateau. It might just be that you need to readjust your calories. I know, right? So here's what you need to know. A smaller body is burning less calories. So if you've lost some weight, you definitely need to redo your calorie calculations. Very, very important, because again, you need to be looking at these things. And while we're on this subject, I also want to point out here that you also need to redo your calorie calculation anytime there's like a change in like your lifestyle. So maybe you went from an active job to a more sedentary job. Anything like that, you definitely need to make sure that you are recalculating your calories. And that is something that I actually do inside Lean Physique. I help my ladies figure out their correct energy balance, helping them figure out their macros. This is so important to know, because this is kind of like, if you don't macro count and you're struggling with weight loss, here's the thing. Think of macro counting kind of like a GPS. Like, if you had a destination that you wanted to get to, you probably wouldn't just wing it, right? You probably wouldn't like not turn on your maps. You would actually turn on your maps and you had a clear path to get there as fast as possible, right? So think of macro counting kind of in the same light. It's a tool that's going to help you. It's going to be like a roadmap for you to help you get to point A to point B in little as time and also little of struggle as possible. So that is it for today, ladies. I hope this was helpful. I do invite you to write a 5-star review for me. If you are listening to the podcast, if I am providing value for you, if you are implementing any of this stuff, I want you to take a second and give me a 5-star review, because it really does help people find my podcast. And I want to help as many women as possible. Couple announcements. I want you all to join my closed Facebook group, Lean Lifestyle, same name as this podcast. Come on over to Facebook. I will put a link into the show notes so you can come over and hang out with us. Also, check out my YouTube channel, cfitness.training. I have a YouTube series that's called Body Recomposition 101, which talks about losing fat and building muscle for women at any age. So I have some great, just bite-sized videos that you guys can binge watch. I would love for you to see my work and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And finally, I just want to let you all know Lean Physique is closed for now, but I do have a couple spots for one-on-one coaching. So if you are interested in that, if you are interested in having a coach that's going to help you navigate perimenopause, if you're interested in building muscle and getting in the best shape of your life, drop me an email at cfitnessonlinetraining@gmail.com. I will put my email address in the show notes as well. But drop me an email and you can apply for one-on-one coaching. So thank you so much for being here, ladies. I hope it was helpful and I will chat with you soon. All right, bye for now.